I'm Joey from Bikeman Performance. I'm going to explain today how our dyno works and why it's the best way to dyno an engine. We have a Superflow 902. There's a water pump on the back side of this that loads the motor, and there's a shaft that goes from the input to the engine. So we actually measure power off the crankshaft. And that load is put on this little torque arm, and it actually measures how many pound-feet of torque the engine's making. So instead of other dynos which measure pressures like an oil dyno that viscosity changes can actually change the power output, water is a constant, and there's no difference between hot water and cold water. It's going to put the same load on, and since it doesn't matter the viscosity of it, we could run alcohol in there, and as long as we got a load on this thing, it's measuring the torque load, it's not measuring the water pressure anyway, so it really wouldn't matter. This is our portable weather station. It tells us what the vapor pressure is, what the humidity is, what the air temp coming in the dyno cell is. So it will automatically correct our numbers from day to day. And that's nice because we can be testing one day and then start testing it 4 days later, and with the correction factor we can compare days to day. We usually like to start fresh, so if we're doing an engine build, we like to do our stock testing the same day that we're running, just so that we know that there's no possible variables that aren't corrected for within the correction factor from the atmospheric pressures. Now we also have coolant in, coolant out. This simulates the water coming from the heat exchanger, and that's all linked to our cooling tower right here. And we can change the temperature of this, so the engine, we can do back-to-back runs, and it'll simulate what the heat exchanger would do in real-world applications. We can do minute-long pulls, we can do 10-minute-long pulls, we can do sweep tests back-to-back, and the engine, the pipe will come up to normal operating temperature, and the engine will run as if somebody were driving down the trail, instead of somebody that was cooling the motor down in between runs and just doing hot shot runs. We're running real world conditions, and the way that we maintain temperature on this is outside here. We have 1,000 gallons back here, 1,000 gallons of coolant outside behind the building. So that cools down, and every night and every day we can maintain our proper engine temperatures. Now there's a way that we can keep fresh air, in the dyno room. We have a fan in, which right here, which will blow fresh air across the machine, and that's strategically placed lower than our exhaust fan up here. So this is just room exhaust, it's not actual engine exhaust. But the air from the room will be hotter than the inlet air, so that will tend to rise, and we'll maintain clean air coming in so our test results aren't contaminated. Now, beyond that, we also have a exhaust duct. Sucks air out at a high rate. Now we make sure that we don't put this up tight to the belly pan, because we want to clean all the exhaust out, but we don't want to pull negative pressure onto the muffler, because that'll contaminate our results as well. And that comes out, that actually goes out that side of the building and aims that direction, aims completely opposite direction, so that we know that we're not going to swirl that exhaust back in and contaminate our air. Our biggest thing we concentrate on here is consistent results, run to run, so that we know if we only have 0.33% variance between runs, and we can back them up back-to-back 5 runs in a row, we know that if we make a half horsepower increase over that we made a half horsepower. We're not, just getting a cold, slingshot run that, just by chance gets a good number. We know that we can back that number up, and we'll show you here in a little bit how we do that. So this is our dyno control center, and we monitor everything here. This is our live screen running from the dyno box out there, and you know, I can customize this screen to whatever we want. For this two-stroke testing, I have the information on there that I feel is most important, but I modify it for every different machine that I do. So we'll have horsepower on here. This is the temperature of our coolant tank outside, coolant tank outside, and this is like the coolant temperature that's in our heat exchanger out there. So this is basically simulating what the heat exchanger is running at. On this one, I'll be monitoring what our manifold absolute pressure is, what our horsepower is, what our torque is, and if I have an AFR hooked up, what our actual lamb AFR is. And you know, this is our weather station page, so this will tell us you know, what the correction factor is today, what the air temp is, what the humidity, barometric pressure, vapor pressure, which is you can figure that as how many grains of moisture to you know, each cubic foot of air. And this is our relative air density, and this is our corrected density altitude, so it's what elevation that we're doing simulated testing for. And then this little guy is actually connected into the data link on the computer, and I can monitor many different things on here. At this particular time, I have knock retard for the PTO cylinder, knock retard for the mag cylinder, and what the belly temperature of the pipe is and what our coolant temp is. So the main thing I use this for is to I want the coolant to be at operating temperature when we start the run, and I want my exhaust temp, like if we're doing a sweep run, to start at the same temp. Usually I start at 900 degrees because that'll simulate like a normal trail situation. We've done a lot of data logging on trails, and that's a pretty common spot to be. So we can simulate, like pull out of a corner and stuff like that. That's about it. I use these other monitors when I'm doing 1100 turbo builds. I'll have like my fuel tables and stuff on there, and like a little computer. I use that for writing some of the bully dog tunes. But that's our dyno room. And then, you know, you can turn on the pumps here, turn on the inlet fan and the outlet fan, and when I do that, you'll actually be able to see this start changing here. So this is our air temp in the room. You'll see that start to drop as the air gets flushed through. And it's fairly slow moving, but you'll see this start changing pretty quick. Density altitude, see this will start dropping. That's because the colder air is coming in, and it's making it seem like we're at a lower elevation because the air gets more dense as it gets colder.
All right,
let's do this. Alright, we'll let the engine come up to temp here. Right now it's at 105. You see our pipe temp climbing here. So we'll let that come up to 122. And since we're doing an acceleration test, we'll set it for that. Our thermostat's open. That's a cold run. So you can see how it faded off here. That's because as the pipe is not warmed up yet, it'll make the whole RPM shift to a lower RPM because it makes the pipe act longer. So we'll pull that one up on the screen. That's here. First run was 176.3, and we'll go into the next run now, and we'll bring the pipe temp up since everything else is up to temp first. See, as our pipe gets hotter, it actually makes better power. This one was 177.2, and that's at 8,400. So what we'll do is we'll start the next run at the same conditions, and we should get very similar results. See up top, they almost laid right over each other, which is a sign of really high accuracy. 177.4 at 8,400. We'll let the pipe come down so we can start at the same point. Those three lines, you can hardly see it differentiate between them. That's how much we can lay one on top of the other. And fourth run into it, we actually made 0.3 of a horsepower more because everything's getting to the point where we tuned it for. And out of a stock 800 block engine with our stage 3 kit, that's about what we would expect. So how's that for repeatability? You can hardly even see the lines are different. In fact, we'll go onto our screen here and I'll actually compare the last 4 in-sequence runs so you can see what the change was between them. And there's 2 of them. They're almost direct copies. Three of them, pretty much almost identical. Like I said, you know, we have about 0.3% variance between runs that we can copy one to the next. So if we say we make a change in our product and we get 3/4 of horsepower somewhere, we know that that 3/4 of a horsepower is real. And I'll lay the last one on it just so we can see 4 back-to-back runs and how accurate our stuff is. So that is, I mean, you can't ask for better than that. So from here, we're going to go into a what's called a long pull. We'll do a 30-second pull at 8,400 RPM, and that way you can see, you know, everything's working, and it'll work for, you know, as long as you want to hold it. So we're going to get out of our acceleration run, and we're going to go up to an acceleration. about 30 seconds. So, I mean, I don't know what we can show you more than that, but as the pipe gets hot and happy, everything works. It's not going to be a package that's going to fade off on you. We want our stuff to work as good at the bottom of the hill as it does at the top of the hill, at the beginning of the drag race as it does at the end of the drag race. So that's what we have for you. Thank you.